An important role for the State Library is to collect the documentary history of people in New South Wales, of Australia more broadly, and even into the Pacific regions. The Corner Journal has been in the care of the State Library since 1935. It's a funny name. It's actually one of what we call a fair copy of the journal that James Cook wrote day by day while he was on the Endeavour voyage. And by a fair copy, we mean something that is copied out at the time. It was the copy that was sent directly to the Admiralty. That then passed to other people, and eventually in 1890, it was bought and owned for only a brief period of time by a man called John Corner. It was bought from Corner's estate following his death by the Commonwealth of Australia for presentation to the Australian Museum. It was then transferred to the State Library of New South Wales in 1935.
Journals like the Corner Journal are obviously deeply colonial artefacts. They represent the worldviews of white men who were part of the initial wave of colonisation and exploration of Australia. Historically, they've really been used to tell that history and to validate that history, which has been quite exclusive of First Nations perspectives, of Aboriginal culture, of any kind of right of reply to that history from the Aboriginal people that lived through it. So for me, and I know for other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander researchers, being able to look back on these with our knowledge, with our experiences and the experiences and knowledge of our elders and ancestors actually provides a window into a lot of detail and a lot of context that non-Aboriginal people don't necessarily pick up.
We see our role at the State Library as being very much a gateway to collections and to historical documentation rather than gatekeeper. But part of that role is to ensure that the collections that we are holding are held safely and held in a condition that makes them suitable for research. Over time, with usage, the binding has failed. There has been overexposure of particular parts of the journal to the point where we can't exhibit the journal at this stage without some conservation intervention.
What I love about conservation and what initially attracted me to it as a field is how it brings art, science and hand skills together. I'm the lead conservator on the Corner Journal project. Conservation is actually the riskiest time in an item's lifespan.
Items are unique. We can't replace them. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing. If it goes wrong, we could cause significant damage to the item, yes. The research has been very thorough, and the deliberations about options for treatment have been very carefully considered. My guess is the whole process has taken in excess of 2 years to reach the initiation of the treatment.
Iron gall ink is a major issue for libraries and archives internationally. It was an ink that was developed for writing on parchment and vellum, so on animal skins. The issue arises when people started writing on paper. The ink and paper have really bad interactions that cause deterioration. The iron corrodes or rusts, and that degrades the paper. The high acids act in the same way. So you have two processes that are happening concurrently that degrade the paper, and this is first seen as what we call haloing and strike through. So brown areas form around the writing and you can start seeing the writing from the other side. We then get cracking in the ink, so fine cracks start to form, usually in the darkest areas where there's the thickest application of ink. And then the worst is what's called lacing, which is as all these cracks join up, the letters themselves just start falling away from the paper and you're left with a piece of paper that looks like lace. So for the treatment, we first pre-humidify the item. So this is placing the item in a humid microenvironment. The item is then wetted out by a spray application of deionized water. We support the paper on silk screens that we had constructed for the project. The bifolios are then lowered on the silk screen into a water bath. They're then washed twice in separate water baths. before they're immersed in a calcium bicarbonate solution, which is where we're adding a calcium buffer to the paper. Between each of these steps, we do testing both on the item and in the water baths to ensure that we're getting the results that we've anticipated. We then resize it with gelatin. It's then pressed to dry for a week to ensure that it dries flat and in a stable environment. After it's dry, we then repair the pages.
We want to maintain the integrity of the item. It's not just about making the item look great. It's about chemically and physically looking after the item and achieving a result that will enable it to last for many, many years to come.
Documents that were created at the point of colonisation, recording the colonisation of this country, were recorded for a specific purpose, to document those events and the people involved. And people today are looking to these documents for different information and for very different reasons than anyone could have anticipated 200 years ago.
The conservation of this item prevents it from becoming an obsolete volume in a box on a shelf that no one can access. It's really important for primary records like this to stay accessible for researchers to reinterrogate them in the future.